Okay, shall we make a start? It's nearly midday. It's full. So thank you for coming. My name's David. I'm with the Sage CRM company. CRM principal, grand title, isn't it? Someone said to me, do I go around hitting children on the back of the legs with sticks? That's not what I do. I'd be arrested for that. So today I'm going to speak to you about Social CRM. And what I'm planning to cover today is really just a bit of diving down on what CRM should be all about. What happens when the whole world of social media kicks into that? And then I'm going to reflect a bit of experience that we, Sage, have, having worked and done various sort of social activities, both at a group level, so right across the world, but also at a local operating company level. I'll explain all that later on. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. If you don't want to hear that, feel free to leave, that's fine. I feel as if now social media is a well-discussed topic, so we all know why it matters and how it hits your company and what difference it makes. So one of the takeaways I have, I think, is this quote, this statement up here around the conversation is something that the customer is having, whether you're engaged or not. And so the art is to become part of that conversation, to join in, to be engage with it without dictating the conversation. I think that's a nice spin on what social is all about. We talk in our own brochures around CRM being something like this. And while we sell the technology and hope that you will all buy it, it's actually much more than technology. It's all about the solution to what you do in your business to do better customer management. I said in an earlier session, takeaway for me and hopefully for you is customers aren't just people that you might sell products and services to. They're almost anybody you deal with in a day-to-day business environment. Suppliers, other stakeholders, competitors. We keep competitive information in our CRM system. So the software enables you to store this information and then to layer in your business processes, fulfillment, marketing, customer care, whatever those processes are, so that it works to cover every interaction you will have with your customers, suppliers, etc., right through your business. Rather than the world many of us have grown up in, of having a database over there for something, a spreadsheet over there for something else, a specialized system out there. CRM is aiming to bring that all together, and that's where we position our products, and hopefully that's the message that comes across to you. So it is much, much more than a software application. It's only part of it, a very small part of it in some cases. It's all about processes, covering interactions, business processes, relationships, driving revenue, etc., etc. Okay? In the world of social media, definition, a set of technologies, a set of platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and the list goes on, and channels to market, or from market, to get communities working together, to participate in conversations, to either just talk about stuff, or to, in our case, have a community of like-minded people around the product and the way we take the product to market to inform our product development, our product implementations, and a whole lot more. So that's somebody from Gartner giving that impression. There's also another one from Paul Greenberg, very famous CRM evangelist, has been for many a year. Again, similar sorts of idea, bringing together the CRM story and the social story to say, well, what happens when they meet in the middle? It becomes an engaged conversation, so that collaborative platform environment thing, where you are capturing some of the knowledge as part of your own business strategy and having that conversation on a platform. Does that make sense? It's tough sometimes to put a description on it, actually. And if you find all that a bit wordy, there's also this. And I'm sure some of you have seen that before. The different discussions about what all the platforms do. So Twitter, you talk about you're eating a donut. Facebook, you're liking donuts. Foursquare, this is where I'm eating my donuts. And so on. That's the comedy part of the show. It's not funny after this. So I said I'd share a little about what we do as a business. Now, Sage, for those of you that maybe know a little, it's a worldwide company. It's known, of course, for being a UK-based, UK-headquartered company, but we are 10,000 plus people around the world now. and we sell the CRM products around every operating company in the world, really. And so social CRM is a very important thing for us. We use social media to do lots of different things, and so the purpose of this next 10 minutes or so is to sort of share what we do and hopefully give you a few ideas to take away for your own business. We have management teams where they want to put out a message on the value of CRM in a certain industry, and we'll use our social CRM platforms to have that conversation. We'll obviously do the more prosaic stuff around marketing. I've got a channel, I want to get a message out through that channel. LinkedIn, here's our new product release, this is what it's all about. We've also got customer service, so increasingly we are using tweet streams to monitor whether people are talking about the product, and if they are, what the issues might be, and if those problems are a significant issue, turn them into our normal support channels, phone, email, website. So we use social media platforms to help drive that. And then in the sales side of the business, often we'll identify, stalking is too big a word, but often we'll identify people that are talking about CRM online, wanting more information. Who knows a good CRM product in the charity industry? Who knows best practice for sales techniques in selling this sort of product? And we will use those to start conversations on LinkedIn or specialist sites around, well, here's what our offer is, here's how it works, in a collaborative environment. So it's not selling, even though it says sales, it's collaborative conversations. And we do that through this rather groovy graphic. No, we don't really. This is just a lovely shot which looks much better up here than does at the back, trust me. But what we do is we reflect through our community all these sorts of social engagements. So depending on whether you're an end user of the product, dark green, whether you're a partner, our resellers, light mid-green, or whether you're an actual developer member with our software, we provide lots of different content on different platforms to get our message across, to help build the conversation. And so we will have Facebook things where we talk about there's a new release, or we've got a team of people at TFM today, and there'll be pictures on Facebook saying this is what everybody's up to. Or we might have YouTube videos where we're explaining how the product can be used in certain industries. We'll have customers like you talking back to us through YouTube on what they use the product for, and so on and so on. So we have this very rich ecosystem across multiple platforms with different audiences. So I think, and I know you probably can't read the detail at the back, but the takeaway from this one is different messages and different conversations depending on the audience and their relationship to us. And I'm imagining many of you will have that same gradation of contact depending on whether you're dealing with suppliers, competitors, cooperative partners, and so on. But what we do is we drive it all through, as much as possible, one platform, which is our web community. We may well have content existing elsewhere, but we try and drive everything back through this central hub. And, no surprise, underpinning all that is a CRM system, ours, that understands who all these people are, what their profile is, what do they do, how have they contributed, and so on. And we use that to drive this ecosystem, as I said earlier, to get people huggy and feely with the whole world of Sage CRM. And it works, because what we're showing here is when we first relaunched the community back in March to mid last year, we've seen website visits go from 10,000 to 71,000, page views from 30 to 150, and so on and so forth. And what's happening there is people are, first of all, treating the community as the center of the universe for our product site, but also we're using all this other traffic through LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, etc., to drive people back in. So we're trying to acknowledge the fact that there are many conversations going on all sorts of platforms, but also driving people back to that central view of the world. And I think the numbers are proving out the point. part of that, when we did relaunch the site, is we looked at all sorts of good stuff. And if those of you who are into content design, SEO, things like that will understand this. We did a lot of design on things like IP detection. Where are people coming from? So we could track which part of the world they live in. We're looking at things like above the fold content that's attention grabbing. Above the fold means, on the screen you see when you first get there, versus what goes below the fold. We'll update sort of content and have it updating frequently, but also different sorts of content, so video, PDFs, text, and a lot more. And then depending on what you see in the site, depending on your relationship to us, developer, user, partner, you'll see different information. So there's a nice comprehensive story of relevant data in one place. We also do a lot of blogging, even though some people have said that blogs maybe have had their time. We still do a lot of blogging. We still get a lot of traffic through blogs. I will do something on this show after today, and we're finding that traffic just keeps coming, just keeps going. So we'll publish a blog, and then it will be mentioned on a Facebook post, or it'll be on a tweet somewhere else. And so it's fascinating to watch, because I will write something that will appear on the other side of the world, and I have no idea why or how, but it does. So it's a very interesting marketing thesis to look at. I've also written stuff 4 years ago that will surface occasionally, just appear on someone's tweet. So for those of you that are writing blogs, be cognizant of the fact that stuff never dies on the web. And a lot of our stuff as well, I hope this stands to reason. I've got a screenshot there that just talks about product features, but a lot of our content is non-product related. It's about how people use it. It's what's best practice. It's what's the world looking at for CRM in 2015. So it's thought leadership, and that gets a lot of interest and a lot of recirculation, much more than the feature stuff does. We also use our social strategy to get ideas back. We have an ideas hub where we ask people to submit ideas, people can vote on them, they can evaluate, we can evaluate what people like and don't like. So we use it as a source of product intelligence and industry intelligence. So we have 250 ideas coming in it's a bit out of date now, the last year and a half or so, that people contribute to, which influences our product design. And also there's a whole practical element that says it's much more effective, cost effective to do it that way too. Because previously we'd have to go out and speak to 100 customers, which is something we still do, but these days we get a lot more injection from the community rather than having to go out. And I think you get more honest feedback as well sometimes that way. I was talking this morning to a colleague out there at coffee before the doors opened around how we separate our business profile and our personal profile. So I'm a CRM principal on LinkedIn, but I'm not a CRM principal on Facebook. But increasingly, I guess some of you would find the same, that those particular profiles are starting to blend. It's difficult to separate out your personal and your business life. And I have a particular colleague I work with who has believed this has been the case for years. And he blends his entire life together. Because he said to us, all the people I work with have essentially become quite good friends. Probably not all of them, most of them. And so he goes as far as saying when he visits people at conferences or for social reasons, he will post Facebook pictures of the things he's done, the kangaroos he's met, the beaches. He's been to a lot of beaches, which really annoys me. Beaches he's been on, things like that. And he's saying that actually, for him, that's really cementing relationships. So it doesn't matter whether he meets them through the community site, whether we're dealing with a particular customer on a support issue, we will have this whole ecosystem that just works together. And so, as it says on the slide there, for him, and for some of us to a lesser extent, this whole social world has helped cement relationships way deeper, way beyond what he could normally do in a business environment. So, the second part of 3 is just really to show you a bit of product. So this is the shameful advert, right? But I wanted to just give you a feel for a CRM system using social information. And I'm going to use my own product because that would make sense. So this is Sage CRM. sits in a browser. We haven't seen it. We're on the stand over there, so pop by. But this is the sorts of things you can do. So here is my workspace, and it's got the usual things like, find me my customers or look at my diary or run a report. But in my workspace, it's got the ability to do things like plugging in social information. So I've got my LinkedIn feed, which shows me all the people I'm connected with. That's one way of doing it. I've also got the ability inside my customer record to have a floating view of what that person looks like in LinkedIn. So I've got this world of my data together with the world of LinkedIn data brought together. And it's in recognition that you can never have all the data about a customer in your own system because they do live elsewhere. But you can bring them together in one place. We also have the ability to do things with Twitter as another example. So customer record, company, Jeff at Sage CRM, go to his Twitter tab. You can see here his current Twitter stream. And as we all know, this stuff just flows like a river through the ethosphere. Nice thing about this, I think, is it lets you just drop in. So if you're about to make a call to Jeff, you just have a look at your system and go, what's he been talking about the last 2 days? You can have a more relevant conversation. But also you can keep things. So if you see something here and you think, that's really useful, I'll need to keep that in my system. You can make a copy of it straight across into here and keep it against Jeff's record in CRM, which I think is very neat because it deals with that whole river of data that just flows in and out of your life. And there is a copy of, say, the Twitter tweets that have been either inbound or outbound for this particular contact. Similarly, if you're wanting to have lots of different views of data, we've got the ability to plug in things like particular streams. So this is last year's TFM stream inside CRM. We've also got a sort of graphical view of how the tweets are coming in, where they're coming from, what are their individual tags, things like that. So there's an ability to do that. And then, was my last one? Yeah, it was. Okay. So the point of bringing those three views, LinkedIn, Twitter, and this graphical piece, is to say this is a good way of harnessing that river of data and to enrich your own set of data inside CRM. And that's kind of our proposition to you as CRM software users. My third part of 3 is just to give you a little bit of a feed from the sorts of things we've been doing over the years as a company to hopefully impart a bit of knowledge to you. So first of all, how many people are actively doing social media as part of their marketing strategy? Oh, good, okay. That goes up every year, excellent. So some of this is obvious, right? What are you trying to do? Well, your needs will determine the goals you're supporting. So I said earlier about having 3 lots of community, users, resellers, and developers. We have different goals for each of those groups because they all have different needs. So in some cases, we're getting ideas from customers. In some cases, we're providing support to partners or resellers. Sometimes it's all about just outward brand management from us. So we have different goals for our site. We're very cognizant of these rules on the right-hand side here, that we're trying to shape, not lead, shape a conversation. We're trying to be engaging versus just telling people stuff. And even when it comes to reputation management, it's thought leadership, it's conversational shaping, it's not just, here's our new product, do you like it or not? And we have sort of some simple rules, and I hope you will have same sorts of things. Listen to what's going on, share lots of information, and I think of those 3, that's the most radical change I've seen in the last 5 years, where we used to lock away a lot of content to people who paid for it. Now we give so much away because we want to share it to get that engagement from our community, because that's in recognition that the conversation is happening out there anyway, so we may as well be part of it and share that information. So what we've learned, and some tips for you on what the Sage UK company has done the last few years that has shaped the thinking we have. It is now a major part of what we do with marketing. It's huge, absolutely huge. We've been doing blogs and tweet feeds for a long old time. We try and monitor what's being said by us, It's very hard. I don't pretend we've got it right. I don't pretend we get everything. But we try and understand what's going on because it helps shape product direction, brand understanding, and a lot more. Before I give you these tips, we have some assumptions as well that you will have these things in place. Don't laugh, some people don't have marketing plans. But you have a plan that you're trying to adhere to. You have some goals, some expected outputs. We use a lot of web analytics because we want to be able to see when tweets are coming in or when website hits are coming in. Did they originate from a particular location, a particular tweet, other sites, hashtags like TFMA213, and so on and so forth. I'll come back to this later on. Content plans are very important. So of the tips, here they come. Number one, if you've not done any social marketing, I'm guessing hopefully you have, understanding what goes on your own site right away is kind of important, because if you don't understand where your traffic's coming from, why it's getting to where it gets to, then you'll never be able to figure out exactly what's going on afterwards. Kind of common sense, really. Because then you want to be able to benchmark the impact of social media. I have had questions in the last year or two, at this show last year actually, around, well, which platform, media platform should I be on? My metaphor back to people is, well, you don't go into a newsagent and buy every magazine on the shelf. You choose the ones you're interested in. You choose the ones where conversations that are relevant to your company are happening. And so it should be for your own work. Now, we're on quite a number of platforms, but that's really because as a company we sell products to a whole lot of different people in a whole lot of different ways. So we are in different places for different reasons. In your case, maybe it only makes sense to be on one or two platforms, like LinkedIn, like Twitter. So choose the channels that feature conversations about your company, about your competitors, about where your products are used, and start with those. Hopefully this is common sense, but play with them yourself. Understand the way platforms work, the lexicon used, the rules of engagement. Get comfortable with it. And I think I can almost take this tip out now. This was very relevant 2-3 years ago when we started giving this advice, because people weren't comfortable. They weren't on Twitter. They weren't on LinkedIn, but I think that's changing now. And then, and only then, get into doing official channels for your business. How many of you have an official company LinkedIn profile? And see, for the rest of you, why not? Because it's a fascinating source of business. So you should really set up, reserve, use your own company page. Social, I mentioned earlier, has, in fact, I didn't point it out, but one of the earlier slides is engagement takes time, engagement takes resource. You wouldn't do any other sort of marketing campaign without planning out and investing in people or money and those sorts of things. Social media should be no different. We have an army of informal social people. I'm one of them. My colleagues are out there as well. So while we have an official social media team, we have informal people as well, because the reality is we need to cover a lot of channels, and do a lot of listening, do a lot of posting. So we have a set of basic guidelines about what we can say and how we should say it. It's not onerous, it's not a 12-page document. I think it's 2.5 from memory. And it's common sense. Don't give the competition a hard time. Don't be rude to people. Don't swear. So on and so on. But having those in place will allow you to empower the people you choose to be doing the work for you to react quickly without approval. And I think that's a significant change from that control I talked about earlier. You can't control this anymore. So the ability to empower people to answer quickly, simply, on message is very important. As you put more time into this, you will probably have to put more time into it. So think about that. So if you are thinking, gosh, we should be on 6 different platforms, we can only do 2, then only do 2 would be my recommendation. Because, for me, this is a personal view, I think people that set up a feed or set up a platform, a page on LinkedIn, and then disappear off it 6 months later, looks bad. Looks bad. So if you're going to commit to it, then do it. Stay with it. Use it. And almost reflecting back to our original rules of engagement, are you adding value to that conversation? So are you answering queries, pointing people in the right direction? Because otherwise it's just advertising. And as I said earlier, many of our biggest scoring blogs, most interactive posts are around thought leadership stuff. They're nothing to do with product, which is very interesting. You get a lot more engagement on the way people use products versus what they do. So I'm ahead of time. That's kind of the end of what I had to evangelize about. I hope that's useful because it's an interesting time for CRM. I've always been in CRM for 10 years. I think it's a fantastic piece of kit technologically to have. I think it's absolutely essential that every company has something like this. And for me, when the social world starts to kick in, as it is, CRM is even more important than ever. Who do we know? How do we know them? What are the conversations that are happening? What do I need to capture as part of my personal relationships with those customers?